Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. The Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Bringing you the latest from the world of daily fantasy sports and gambling, so you can stop Googling how to join a squid game to cover all those parlays you thought were such a sure thing. Now, sit back and listen to one of the sharpest minds in the game. Here's your host, Dwayne Callender.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. I am your host, Dwayne Callender. Happy Memorial Day to everyone. And for those of you in the armed forces and their families, thank you for your service and sacrifice for everything that we are able to enjoy in the United States. Without much further ado, I am on to talk about the Rangers Game 7 tonight, traveling to Raleigh to play the Carolina Hurricanes. It has been a back-and-forth series. Home ice has basically been the deciding factor here. Neither team has won a road game, and Carolina's going to be favored, as they should be, being the higher-rated team. And realistically, with Florida knocked out, Carolina has home ice advantage if they can eliminate the Rangers tonight. The Rangers, truth be told, it's been quite a wild ride for the Rangers because, with everything I said about the Rangers, needed to play cleaner hockey, need to clean things up. They still have not done the things that they needed to do, but their natural talent has been able to be a factor, and that can't be denied. So it's one of those things where we have a potential scenario where the Rangers could find a way to win this game. It wouldn't shock me at this point because the Rangers, if you actually look through the course of this series in terms of total minutes and everything else factoring in, Rangers have been the better team. They have actually played the better hockey over if you're looking in totality of the minutes, yes, the shot differential favors Carolina. But in terms of the pace of play and what who's been able to dictate what they want to do, the Rangers have actually had the course of play more than Carolina. Outside of a few, you had game 5 slanted heavily towards Carolina. That was their most dominant game. But everything else outside of that, it's been slanted towards the Rangers. Carolina was fortunate to win game 1. They were fortunate to win game 2. At home. Well, like both games at home, the first 2 games of the series, Carolina was fortunate to win. The Rangers have actually been the better team, shockingly. I did not think the Rangers could be as sloppy as they have been in the postseason thus far and survive the series. Like the fact that they're still playing the way the way they have played at stretches in the postseason is mind-boggling to me, but it shows the amount of talent the Rangers have, despite the fact that they still don't have a defensive centerman, and they are terrible in the face-off circle. 2 things that realistically are a recipe for disaster in the postseason. And the craziest thing of it all is, depending on how the tiebreakers work out, I believe the Rangers might actually have the home ice advantage over Tampa as well, because in the head-to-head matchup, in regular season wise, they may actually have the edge over Tampa. Well, I got to double check the stats, but it's very possible in the next round, the Rangers could have home ice advantage. But again, that all depends on getting past Carolina, which is no easy task because, truth be told, Carolina, despite getting outplayed in most of the series, they've been dominant at home in most of their playoff games. The reason why I kind of look at this is that Carolina hasn't been able to get their game going early on in games. So, Carolina, even though they had their best game of the series in game 5, it was still only a 1-goal game well into the third period. Like, the games have been tight. So, again, in a Game 7 where the pressure's on, if this game plays tight, it actually favors the Rangers because, again, it's more pressure on Carolina. Rangers no one really expected the Rangers to win in this round against Carolina. If they had played Boston, yeah, they would have given the Rangers a bit more of a edge there, but not necessarily against Carolina, because the Rangers would have had home ice advantage. The way this kind of comes down to is just Carolina. They have to be able to kill penalties and stay out of the box. Same goes for the Rangers, but the Rangers really need the power play going. The Rangers have not been able to get into much of a flow offensively to start these games. Even though they've been able to slow down Carolina, they haven't been able to get much offense going early on either. So it kind of comes down to, can one of these teams get at least some sense of purpose going on with their offensive lines? The best line for the Rangers this series has been the kid line of Alexis Lafreniere, Filipino, and Capo Caco. That's been their best line. It hasn't been the top six. It's been the kid line, the third line. The question is, can the kid line actually transfer that energy they've been able to do at home? They've been doing their damage at home. Can they actually get it together on the road? That's the thing. They haven't been able to do necessarily that factor on the road in this series. So, yeah, everyone's got to look at it and see, can you get the top six of the Rangers going? Because Chris Kreider has been very quiet this series. Panarin has been extremely quiet. I don't think it goes without saying that the Rangers, if you expected this series to go 7, you would have expected far more coming out from those two players than we've seen. So I know personally, Artemi Panarin, this is one of those games where, I kind of look at it saying, you expect your left wings to be able to put shots on net and just keep pumping shots, because the Rangers cannot do this dance where they just allow Igor Shesterkin, their goaltender, to soak up shots and have another 35-plus save night and only put up 20 shots in return. The Rangers have got to figure out a way of getting shots on net, and it's got to come from Kreider and Panarin. Yes, we can hope for the kid line to be able to generate offense, but realistically, it's optimistic. Realistically, you're looking for the top six to do top six things, and it kind of starts with what you're getting out of Panarin and what you're getting out of Kreider. Now, the issues that we've been talking about, by and large, is the struggles of the Rangers in the faceoff circle, because the Rangers have basically been dominated in the faceoff circle the entire series. They've won less than 45% of the faceoffs in this entire series. And, that's just the way it's been. And, the Rangers are not a good faceoff team. They're well below league average. But, as long and short of it is, they've got to figure out a way of not getting smoked in the faceoff circle. Yes, you could realistically, they could lose the faceoffs tonight. You're almost expected to lose faceoffs tonight. But it comes down to, can you win the faceoffs when they matter? Can you win the offensive zone faceoffs? Can you win the defensive zone faceoffs where you really want to have possession of the puck and make sure that Carolina can't set up set plays in the offensive zone for them and get a clean look on Shesterkin? Because you're trying to make life as easy for Igor as possible tonight. That's really what it comes down to. So, in terms of a DFS lineup construction, because you got DraftKings put up a Showdown contest, larger than what you normally see. You got $10K up top for first place. Obviously, not nearly as big as the NBA contest, but money is money. So you got about 3,000 entries. The way I would look at this is you're essentially going to be playing one of the goalies up top, depending on the script that you're looking for. Whether it's Ranta or Shesterkin, I would play one of the goalies up top because I still think this is a low-scoring game. The over-under is 5.5. honestly, I'd be shocked if this game hits the over. I really would be shocked because it means that you would have had a couple of power play goals or something goofy happen to hit the over. I think this is going to be another low scoring game. I think you're probably looking at a 3-1 game. And by 3-1, I mean because you get like an empty netter late. I think this game plays extremely tight yet again. So it's a nail biter for both teams and fan bases. From my standpoint, it's a lot harder to see the goalies not being in the optimal winner than some of these other scenarios. Will I build out other scenarios? Yes, but from a general standpoint, I think the captain should start with one of the goaltenders. And I don't have an issue playing the other goaltender either because I expect both goalies to be making saves tonight. And because of the lack of scoring, I am more in favor of pairing up some of the lines. So the kid line between Kakko and Lafreniere. Kakko's only $2K on DraftKings in utility spot. Lafreniere's $4,800, more expensive, but it's still cheaper than a lot of these other forwards. And then you can make your choice on, yes, that's the Rangers line, but on the Carolina side, you can play some of these guys that are on the cheaper end. It's a matter of what it comes down to pricing wise, what you're fitting in. So obviously, I'm not building out lineups for everyone, but it's like Martin Nikas, he's 6,900. Jordan Staal, it's actually he was Nikas was 4,600. He's 6,900 in the captain. Sorry about that. It's just one of those things where Nikas, you can play him. Staal on the Carolina side, you got him at 5,200. Pesci, you've got like guys who are on the cheaper side. Pesci defensively is 6K, but because it's a little bit harder to see scoring happening, I'm not necessarily as much in love with playing Adam Fox at 9,400 or Tony DeAngelo on the Carolina side at 8,200 or Trouba at 8K for the Rangers. Like the expensive defensemen, I think it's harder to get there just because of the fact that there's so much in terms of lack of scoring. Like, they have to find other ways of getting there. And for the defensemen, they're not going to be pumping as many shots as some of these other forwards. I'd rather pair some of the cheaper lines together in the hopes that they can pump a shot and maybe they get a goal through. And that's the only goal that's really generated from one of these squads because you've tied up the pairing and you get the assist and the goal. Do it that way, and then you just ride the goaltenders. That's the way I'm looking at this setup tonight because it's really hard, at least for me, seeing a scenario where you can kind of look at it and say, okay, if I play the kid line with Lafreniere and Kakko, I'm not gonna chase the Hedl game. Hedl had 2 goals last game. People are gonna play him because of the 2 goals. We're not gonna chase performance on a guy that's not necessarily a goal scorer. I would say, if you're going to take a punt, you can take a punt on a Tyler Mott. He did have a goal last game, but he's shown flashes in this series of being able to get out in front and get moving. Now, again, that's chasing, but it's chasing a punt. Like, Mott is 2K. If you're looking at Hedl, you're going to be spending 5,400. It's just like the price difference. Hedl is so much more expensive than Lafreniere and Kakko. It makes no sense why Hedl's that expensive, but it is what it is. So I look at it from the standpoint of if you play the kid line and you're playing Ranta, you could also play, like, the only way I would play someone like a Fox or a D'Angelo is stacking it with him and someone else on the power play of their individual lines, because they're both quarterbacking the power play units of their respective squads, and you're hoping for a power play goal. And instead of pairing the individual line pairing, you're pairing the power play unit. So, and you can do it that way. But to me, the cheapest way to stack this game is you're playing the kid line with Lafreniere and Kako, and then figuring out your line combination, and then you pick your winning goaltender and the captain with the losing goaltender in there as well. Because I do think both goaltenders are going to be the top the scorers fantasy-wise because of the saves that they're going to have tonight. I just don't see enough goals here to justify fading either goaltender. I could be wrong. If this hits the over, I am dead in the water from a DFS standpoint. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I just have a hard time seeing a plethora of goals. So, hopefully the Rangers win. That's my bias as a fan. But from an analysis standpoint, my bet would be on the under. Take the under 5.5. We'll see how the game goes, but I think the under is the best bet. If someone wants to take a stab at the Rangers money line at plus 125, you could bet Carolina minus 145 as slight favorite. I wouldn't begrudge either side on taking the money line in a game 7, but I would say the best play overall is the under, because I just don't see the 5.5 getting met. Maybe we see 6 goals because of a bunch of power play goals, but I don't see these teams getting reckless, and I think the referees let both teams play so we don't get a ton of power play opportunities. That's my take on it. We shall see, but that's going to do it for me. Best of luck, folks, and enjoy the game.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major outlets.